G'day and welcome to KrakenCast. This is the oceanic branch of the Vassals of Kingsgrave Game of Thrones review series. Today we'll be discussing episode 3 of season 7, entitled The Queen's Justice. My name is Duncan, or Valkyrist on the forums, and today I am joined by...
Dana, Team Dana on the forums.
Sarah Lady Weaver on the forums.
This is Bing, Shoeshiner on the forums.
I'm David HHH on the forums.
And this is Jedi Whiteheart on the forums.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. So we've got a mix of Aussies and honorary Krakens on. So we're starting with the third episode, obviously, but did you guys have any thoughts on the first two episodes you wanted to share? Were you positive, negative? How'd you think?
I thought they were both really good. I thought it's been a cracking start to the series. Really enjoyed it. It's really good not knowing what's going to happen.
Would you say it's a Kraken to the series?
Kraken.
Swish.
So funny.
Yeah. At this point in the show, you kind of just turn your brains off and just enjoy it for what it is.
Right?
Because I mean, it's not the novels anymore. It's gone past. They're making their stuff up. It's fun.
It's great fun. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Unless it's really bad, then it still annoys me. But otherwise, it's good. It's good.
I think it's just been great so far. I mean, not everything's perfect, but it never is, and that's fine. Fine with me. I enjoy it for what it is, and the things that aren't great, but...
It is really hard to compare it to the books, though, because it's just such uncharted territory. It's like all these things we speculated were going to happen, but now actually seeing them is so weird. It doesn't, it obviously feels like a bit of a diluted version of it. Like, you don't obviously have all of that, the rich writing that, Martin would put into it. But there's definitely some fun scenes. I was happy with the first episode. Like, I thought it didn't like wow me, but I thought it was like a really good setting up episode. There's some really cool scenes. Last episode I was actually pretty negative on. Like, I thought a lot of it was, especially the Dany stuff, I thought was really weak writing and really tedious, and not a lot happened. But I think the final 10 minutes saved it. Like, I thought that big battle with the Greyjoys was awesome. Like, one of the best battles of the show so far. Yeah. So that was really cool. But let's give our lemon cakes for this episode. Who would like to start? Dana, do you want to start?
4. I'm not a very convincing 4, but normally by episode 3, I've done the drop-off. So previous seasons, like the first season always starts off strongish and it's a good setup. And then by season 2 or 3, episode 2 or 3, it's back to the grind. And that hasn't happened yet for me in this season because it is a condensed, there's shorter number of episodes and they know what they want to do. So I feel like it has a lot more momentum. So I'm enjoying it a lot more. But that's a 4 in comparison with previous seasons. But overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I give it a higher rating just because Jamie's ass and Euron being a dick. Now that I think about that, I probably would say 4.5.
Sarah?
I'd probably say a 4 as well, yeah. Because I just jumped into this episode. I haven't seen the first 2 of this season yet. Hey, definitely qualified to be on this. But jumping into it, I think it stood up on its own, and I think you could actually just jump into this episode if you've seen the other series and understand it, most of it quite well. The only bit that was a bit confusing, which was the Greyjoy bit and the Sand Snakes, but everything else, it was really easy to just jump back into. And the dialogue was good in it. Most of the dialogue I really liked, and I didn't think they said anything stupid. So that's an A+.
Bing, our Kraken alum, what did you think?
Yeah, back again. So I think 3.75. I go a little higher, 3.85, whatever. Somewhere around there.
No, be specific.
It's... Yeah. I can keep going to no. I think at this point, the character writing, they're almost kind of circling just the sort of the same archetype. Like John would say, "Oh, you're brooding, you're moody, yeah. Tyrion, you're smart, you like to talk." And so it really depends on the actors themselves being able to really elevate that character on their own, because the writing itself, it's kind of right now. But there were a couple of really, really good scenes in which the actors in it were really, really good, I feel like. And that really lifted this episode. So, yeah, I think most of the scenes were whatever, but there were a few really good ones.
David, what did you think?
So I'm kind of torn between 4 and 4.5, so I'll give it 4.25. Mainly, I'd give most of the episode a 4, but I think that the that particularly the ending with Olenna, and also I really loved the stuff with Alaria and Cersei. So I think that gives it that extra quarter.
I'll have to go for 4.5. I think I really enjoyed the episode. I think a lot happened. There was twists. There were some great scenes and great moments, and especially Olenna at the end was amazing, and Cersei was fantastic as well. So. And some of the people that don't act very well in the show, or my least favourite actors, I thought sort of stepped up their game in this.
Emilia Clarke.
Yeah.
Not to mention any names.
And Kit, I thought he was much better than he normally was this episode. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. 4 out of 5 lemon cakes. Really good a big improvement over last week's episode, as I said. Obviously, the meeting of Jon and Dany was long awaited, and I think it was pretty well played. I think there was like a decent chemistry between them. As you said, Jed, I think the actors kind of stepped up to the plate. I like how the episode was sort of about like the tension between like nursing past grievances and trying to prepare for the future. I'm really digging the rise of like Cersei and Euron as these really formidable villains, and the way Dany's campaign is just completely fallen apart. I really like that subversion.
Right.
And the show, it's interesting because the show is moving very fast at this point, which is sort of disorientating, especially a lot of the geographic stuff. But I think the episode showed a nice balance between character interactions and intense action sequences, which are pushing the plot forward. I think this is my favorite of the season so far, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
But let's get into the meat of the episode. So we'll probably just go by location as we have in the past, starting with Dragonstone. So I'll just give a quick recap. Jon and Davos arrive on the shores of Dragonstone and are greeted by the Hand of the Queen, Tyrion, who escorts them to the throne room. Melisandre watches from a far-off cliff, pleased to have finally brought the two monarchs together, but eager to return to Essos lest she incur Jon's retribution. Dany asks Jon to recognise her as the rightful Queen of the Seven Kingdoms and join her in the fight to depose Cersei Lannister. Jon rebuffs her, claiming he is king in the north, which is now an independent kingdom, and that he seeks an alliance against the far greater enemy north of the Wall, the Army of the Dead. Dany becomes angry, but Jon is steadfast. The parley is interrupted by news of the attack on Dany's navy by Euron Greyjoy and the capture of Yara and Alaria Sand. Tyrion mediates tensions between Jon and Dany. He is skeptical of the existence of the Night's King, but vouches for Jon's character. He convinces Dany to allow the Northmen to mine obsidian from Dragonstone as an act of friendship. So, a pretty big moment for the series. What did you guys think?
I was really happy to actually see Jon and Tyrion back together, and that Tyrion still has a soft spot for Jon being a bastard, and I think it means that he'll still definitely have a soft spot for Bran as well, being that all cripples and dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes. So I think that it was nice seeing that again. Yeah,
that was almost funner than seeing Jon and Dany, just seeing Tyrion and Jon back and forth and just bantering. Agreed. Like it was really fun. And I feel like Tyrion as a character has sort of not had a lot to do since season 5. He's sort of just been subsumed into Dany's entourage a bit. So it was nice to get a bit of character from him.
Yeah, but now that he does things, he's fucking it up royally.
He is,
right?
Yeah.
As a military king.
Seriously.
Yeah, is he just going to go like back of the pack Tyrion, just back of the pack? But no, it happens for other reasons. But it's more about Jaime than Tyrion's ineptitude, I think. Like, he's being outsmarted, but he's already intelligent, so, he's playing a hard game.
At the same time, though, you have to wonder what Tyrion is bringing to Dany right now and what she's seeing in him. I mean, she left him in charge of Marine and came back, and it was a total disaster, war being attacked, and she had to save the day, and then appointed him Hand of the Queen, sorry. And then he's come up with these great plans, and we've had just kind of disaster after disaster right now. So what is Tyrion bringing to the game here, and will she put up with it?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think from Dany's point of view, at least, he was able to, he has a decent knowledge of politics in Westeros, so I guess he's been educating her about the situation there while they've been traveling to Westeros. But yeah, these are some pretty major stuff-ups.
Maybe it brings up the fundamental difference between a good political advisor and a good advisor of war. Because clearly he's good at politics, but maybe not so good at war.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but as well, why would she even really make him her hand? I never thought that particularly made sense. Or put him in charge of Marine when she left, or how did he even really get in charge? Because no one knew him. He was just a noble from back at Westeros, and he shouldn't even really be in that circle, to be honest. Like, that's what I never really thought, and I always thought it was a bit silly that Dany's trusting someone that she doesn't even necessarily know and is putting him in a position with that much power.
I think the show and the show's writing is now often making a mistake of tell and not show rather than show and not tell. Because and you often see this even in the very first meeting in the meeting between Jon and Tyrion at the start of the episode, they're kind of just throwing their Wikipedia entry of themselves back of each other back to each other, and so they're kind of relying on the viewers to think, oh, Tyrion is smart, right? Tyrion is the smart guy. He's good at politics. So he should be the hand of the queen, even though all of the actions that Tyrion has done so far does not suggest that there's no reason Dany should trust him to be the hand. So I think that's one of the show's major weaknesses. They want to have Tyrion as the hand, as the advisor. They're trusting that the viewers would just accept that because they have in their minds from the past season based on the novel, the past season that's based on the novel's character writing, that Tyrion's a smart guy, that they would just go with it.
Right.
But the scenes they've actually written for him after basically post book has not lived up to what Tyrion's character has been before.
Yeah, I think from the viewer's perspective, we know that Tyrion's a smart guy and good at politics, but Dany hasn't necessarily seen that, so it doesn't really make logical sense why she would appoint him to such a high position, or at least hold him in such high esteem. I'm sort of trying to remember last season what he did. He was able to sort of quell the Sons of the Harpy, wasn't he, in Meereen? Didn't he and Varys do a bit of wheeling and dealing with some of the people there? And said,
and then they attacked.
Yeah, well, that was the slavers. That was the external enemy. But he was like, wasn't there something about he was able to bring peace inside the city and get the economy back up or something like that? And then the slavers obviously attacked, which wasn't good. Like,
I think,
but maybe that's like a point.
I think Varys caught the spy or the person, the insider for the Harpies, and I guess that guy.
Varys did it with Tyrion.
That's true.
Yeah, he bought a bit of time for him in Marine, didn't he? I think he's proved himself, like I say, in politics, but militarily he hasn't at all, really. I mean, he's got the Blackwater, managed to sort of
she doesn't know about that.
Which he reminded Davos quite sweetly in the scene. That was quite good. But he's been caught on the hop twice already, hasn't he, really? Yeah, militarily. That was actually
one of the things I liked about these scenes. Wasn't so much necessarily everything that happened, but I liked all the little references they threw in, like Blackwater and Davos being a little uncomfortable given that his kids died there because of Tyrion, and like little bits like Tyrion asking about Sansa and how she was doing and letting Jon know that we didn't do it. And little moments like that, or like the look on Varys's face when Melisandre is talking about that, you know, you will die here too, and how he seems to be a little uncomfortable around the red women.
I loved that face so much.
Right?
He was just bitch, please, what are you doing? And all I just wanted like a Davos, like Varys moment where Davos like, oh yeah, this is what she did, and Varys is like, wait, hold her boat. I had issues with someone burning my junk, and she burnt an entire child. Nuh-uh. She's dying now. I agree. I do agree. Like all the little comments that were happening, Jon and Davos, where he's like ixnay on the art A thing. Just they don't need it, you know. I really liked that. And there was something else. Oh yeah, it's just like Tyrion. The past couple of episodes of all the military failures. I just think it would be interesting to see what happens with him for the next couple of episodes. Now, is he going to be pulled up by Dany? Is he going to doubt himself? So that should be interesting to say.
Yeah, because Olenna plants the seed of doubt in Tyrion that he's too like cautious and that Dany needs to be the conqueror, and I think this will definitely aggravate that.
I loved that like Jon and Davos had legitimate reactions to dragons, because every time you've seen dragons, they've been so used to them, No, that's falling flat on your face. That's to a dragon roll. Yep, that would happen.
Would the Dothraki still be like, yeah, it's a dragon? I would think they'd still be a little nervous, wouldn't you?
I once heard a tiger roar at the zoo, and I have never had the impulse to run the other way so quickly. Just when you hear something that shouldn't ever be heard by humans if you're not about to die. So I liked that about the dragon.
I love the bridge that they're walking up on the way to the throne room, and the way the camera sort of receded and winded back and forth. That was beautiful. It's like, this is the best Dragonstone has looked in ages.
Gorgeous.
Like it always looked quite dull when Stannis was there, but now it's this quite epic place with the hills and the place to...
Everything is dull when Stannis is around.
They have money now too, which helps for the show. True. The show has money now.
Do you think that's also because of how they just portrayed Stannis, and they related him back to being at Dragonstone, so they dulled it down, and because Dany's coming over, and they really like to ramp up Dany, so they prettied up Dragonstone a fair bit and made it very stunning, because otherwise they should have had similar shots back in previous seasons.
That causeway reminds me of Tintagel. It's a very similar castle that's sort of out off the headland, and there's like a narrow way up to it. I don't know where it is. I'm assuming it's in Ireland, the one that they're using, but it's great to see these old castles and it being involved.
Could be Spain, but probably Ireland.
Could be, yeah.
So one question I have about this stuff is, do you think this is it for Melisandre for a while? I mean, she seems to be heading to Volantis. Are we done with her for the year, or is she gonna have some secret thing? We know she's coming back to die, or so she says, but are they gonna get rid of her for a while? Because no one's in Essos right now.
Yeah.
Dario's in Essos.
Well, true. Maybe they'll meet. There you go. They'll meet.
It only takes 20 minutes to get to Volantis.
Hey, she can.
Yeah, I don't think going somewhere means anything anymore for the show. She'll be probably back next episode.
Think about how much travel happened in this season, in this episode alone. I mean, we've been all across the freaking continent.
Ever since Stannis died, it seems like Melisandre and Davos don't really have anything to do. So I think it probably is best that Melisandre leaves, just because otherwise she'd just be filling seats. Davos is quite interesting that they've given him the role of Jon's right-hand man, and it makes sense given that he knows Dragonstone. I think it works.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, I found Melisandre leaving a little strange in that they gave her no reason to leave. They could have had her just hiding out in the background or whatever. When Sam left the North, he was leaving to get knowledge. She's just going back home, sitting on a couch, eating some twisties, and then coming back to die.
Right. Well, she did say, I've done my part. I put ice and fire together. And then, she seems really full of remorse for the mistakes she's made, particularly a certain girl she burned. And so, I feel like she's just completely doubting herself now. We've seen her depressed ever since, we saw her as an old lady there. And I think she just doesn't know what to do now. She has no faith. And without her faith, what is she?
Well, she's still alive, so I'm looking on.
So she's going to church camp and then coming back full of hell and brimstone.
She's got to do something.
Yes, she's got to do something.
Actually, I'd be kind of excited if she came back full of all the firepower and everything. I'd be super excited to see her come back for the last season and go toe-to-toe with some of the White Walkers.
Sounds great.
And then she dies.
Right.
That'd be really interesting.
Well, she does say that she's going to die
to see
in
what
Westeros.
she can do.
Right.
So that may be planting the seed for later towards the end of the series. But Jon and Dany, any thoughts?
I think both of them made really smart moves. So you had Jon not bending the knee, therefore his army wouldn't be under the control of Dany, get decimated, and then the North is, just is not well equipped enough for the coming army of the dead. And then I think Dany was really smart, being like, well, you know what, you can have the Dragonstone, but I will fund it, I will give you the men to mine it, and I'll do all that. So it also means that she can hold the dragon glass hostage in a way, and she has a bargaining tool with Jon. So both of them aren't doing as well as they hoped, but both of them are in better positions because of their decisions. I do think if Jon bent the knee, the Northern Army would just end up like the Dornish or the Tyrell army.
Yep.
Right.
And
this does...
if Dany let Jon just do whatever, she wouldn't have any bargaining chips with him. It would all be on the, well, I gave you something. Are you going to give me anything in return? You'd be like, no, fuck off. I've got my dragon glass.
Yeah.
Going back to the north. Whoop, 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 whoop.
You could also argue that this is the one thing Tyrion has done that's worthwhile, is actually give them a little compromise here. He set this up and it happens. We'll see where it goes, but presumably, hopefully it'll go well.
Yeah, that's what it's good at, isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
I thought it was good how the scene was shot, because Dany presents herself as obviously the superior character in the room, up high on her throne and giving herself that massive title. But the fact that Jon sort of stays steadfast and refuses to kneel and kind of draws her down off her throne, and they talk to each other as equals, is interesting, because they both have a sort of similar amount of power. I mean, obviously, Dany has more because she has dragons, but they're both coming at it from a very fixed point of view. They've both had their own experiences and they can't step away from that. But the fact that Tyrion's able to sort of parlay a bit of a compromise is interesting. Like, they're getting closer and closer, and then you see the later scene where they actually sort of talk in private and they're a bit more informal.
Yeah, I think Jon did the right thing exactly there, really. I don't think the Lords of the North, if he had bent the knee, I don't think they'd have stuck with him, really. I think he'd have lost them, most of them. So, and that's the way politics works a lot of the time. When you're talking in public, you have to sort of present the facade of the lords and kings and stuff, but it actually gets done off to the side when you have a little chat. I think the whole scene worked well. I thought Dany and Jon both acted that really well, which is a plus, definitely. It's not their strongest points, especially Jon.
I actually thought that why can't he just compare the White Walkers to Dany's dragons? Because if he puts it that way, he's far more likely to convince her of the White Walkers, because he is saying something's real that no one else believed and is actually real for a very long time, whereas she brought back dragons to life. So it's quite a similar thing.
I think she came to that conclusion on her own at the end, right?
Yeah, probably. But
yeah.
I mean, I feel like they're going to have to go somewhere. He's going to have to go prove it to her. And that's probably some of the stuff we've seen in the coming attractions from the trailer from the season.
Yeah, he's got to prove it to her. I mean, how's he going to get her up there? She could fly up and have a look for herself, really. But they don't seem to want to let her go off, even to attack fleets and stuff. I know. Yeah. The dragons need to come into play somewhere, don't they?
At some point.
Tyrion needs to get back to his saddle designing business. Safety saddle for the dragons, because I'm sorry, it's just safety first, Dany. Safety first. You fall off one of those and you're done for. Just,
Yeah, maybe you could get a little sidecar for Tyrion and Jon.
There we go. That's awesome.
Oh, like the two fat ladies, they can travel around cooking.
Well, there are still two other dragons that need saddles, so.
And they can take Davos with them, so they always have onions.
There you go.
Dany makes a good point, though.
I mean, Davos.
Even though the White Walkers are obviously the more powerful threat, they haven't actually invaded, whereas Cersei is just massacring people left and right. Like, it's the more imminent threat. It almost doesn't matter if you protect the wall and defeat the White Walkers if Cersei just kills everyone behind the wall. So it is important to actually address the Seven Kingdoms you're trying to save, as well as protecting the borders of the Seven Kingdoms. So I think they will.
Well, for anyone not in the north, the White Walkers aren't the imminent threat. For everyone elsewhere, Cersei is.
It just really changes on your location what you think the biggest threat is.
Yeah, it's all about perspective. Jon has one perspective, Dany has a completely different. Yeah, exactly. Cersei is just a name to him, but she's not a name to Sansa. Sansa knows what Cersei is.
Right.
I thought it was,
as she keeps pointing out,
I thought it was strange, Dany's approach here, because in previous seasons she's said things about, I'm going to break the wheel, I'm not going to rule as my ancestors did, but she's kind of inciting her ancestors in order to subjugate the various houses. Like, this is when the North bent the knees, this is how it's going to be. But I mean, Jon can just say, well, the Targaryens were deposed, you no longer have any legal claim. The Baratheons have the throne by right of conquest, so legal matters don't really have much matter, especially to the Northmen.
And he did say that.
Yeah.
So, good job, Jon.
And he made the legitimate argument that when you burned my grandfather, you kind of broke that treaty.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
I did like Dany apologizing for that. I think that shows how different she is trying to make herself seem to the other Targaryens. I just get really annoyed at the writing that has her kind of understanding that Ned Stark is a good man, and then she just forgets that for the sake of argument when it suits her, and brings up the fact that Ned was probably okay with Robert sending assassins after her. And yeah, I don't know if that's shoddy writing or as a character they're allowing Dany to pick and choose how she addresses different characteristics of people.
I think she does pick and choose.
Well, how much does she really know what was going on?
I think it's shoddy writing.
And I also got to imagine...
it could be both.
Well, everything Dany says is kind of said as a political performance. You don't really get any scenes private with Dany. Everything's sort of said to a court. So even if she doesn't necessarily believe it, it's all kind of this rhetorical device. This is how I'm going to convince you by citing these arguments. So it is hard to tell. I wish we did get more of Dany the character. It feels like we haven't seen the real Dany in seasons and seasons. She's just this kind of speech-delivering messianic figure. Which is why I love the fact that her campaign is completely falling apart. Like, we've seen her being invincible for so many seasons now. The fact that all her allies have been conquered so deftly by Cersei.
I'm hoping next episode we get a good scene between her and Tyrion going, okay, what's going on here? We need to talk, and we could get maybe what she's really thinking about this, because we haven't had that yet, really. It's always been, like you said, this performance. We don't get her fears, her anxieties, what's going on. She just has to perform as, I know the thing, I'm in charge, let's do this. In the books, we get the doubts, but we can't hear her thoughts.
And as well, with Jorah coming back, he might be the person she voices her fears to, because he has been with her the longest.
True.
And she knows that he will support her through everything, because he has for years and through everything else. So.
And at the speed everyone moves now, he could be there next week.
Yay! Go Jorah!
Right? He could be there next week.
He won't be there next week. He will be there next week.
Right?
Anything I had, but has anyone noticed how tanned Varys looks? He looks a lot browner than he did before. I don't know. That's because all the time he spends on ships lately. I don't know, but
that's what I thought it might have been, because I'm like, dude, your makeup looks terrible, man.
Well, Marina's further south, so
I was really hoping it was. He's been on ships, he's sunburnt, it's been all the wind in his face and salt spray, because that makeup does not look good.
And they don't have sunscreen in Westeros Nessos.
Or his face was just really dirty and he'd been pretending to be a jailer. That could work. I'd give them that one.
All right, let's move on to King's Landing. So Euron Greyjoy parades Ilaria and Yara through the streets of the city all the way to Cersei's court. Appreciative to have wounded Dany's campaign and gained a potential ally, she grants him his request for marriage once the war is won. Cersei poisons Ilaria's daughter as revenge for Mycella's murder, and then ravishes Jaime in celebration later that night. The next day she meets with the Iron Banker Braavos to discuss the crown's considerable debts. She warns them that Dany is a poor investment and convinces them that they will be repaid by the Lannisters shortly. So I'm loving evil Cersei. I think I'm really impressed with how I'm really impressed with how competent she is and how efficient. It's almost like she's been waiting for this moment her whole life. She's always had to mediate her power through men, but now it's just like all her. She can do whatever she likes, and she's killing it.
Right, feeling invincible.
She is doing a good job, but I have a bone to pick with her saying she'll marry Euron.
Well, did she?
Unless she's planning to stab him in the back.
But did she?
She is, yeah.
He said he'd get one. You'll get what you want.
She said he'd get his reward. She said he'd get his reward. She didn't specify what that reward would be.
No, but with that, even implying that she'll marry him, I thought it was very hypocritical or against what she stands for, because after Robert, she never wanted to marry someone for political gain again. She went up against her father, saying she did not want to marry one of the Tyrells. Like, she really... Loras. It was Loras, right?
Yep.
No. Right.
There's only one Tyrell in the show.
But she did not want to marry anyone else for political gain. and now she's using it as a political leverage, which is something she was against. So I find that kind of annoying, because I think it would have been great to see her use another avenue to get her power, or another way to get what she wants.
But in her mind, she wasn't. She was just using him, and she's never going to... I don't think anyone thinks she's really going to do it, right? Any of us, at least, you know? He may. So in her mind, that's not really playing that. She's not really giving in because she's not going to give it to him.
I hope so, because I'll be so upset if she does so. I really hope she's being smart and manipulative.
And Elizabeth I was teasing marriage to different prospective husbands well after menopause. Well after. You know, she was able to play with people with that, because, you know, she knew they wanted the power that she could grant them, but she wanted to be able to use them. And yeah, she did it for so long, just so long, almost to her dying day. It was only in the last couple of years of her life where she stopped kind of playing around with that dynamic, and that was only because she had to execute one of them. But that's the thing, like, that's just what I think Cersei is doing. Like, that's what women in power can do. You know, it's not just a dynastic marriage. It's, you know, prove yourself to me, and yeah, I might come through with that promise.
Does anyone think that Euron believes her? Like, we don't believe her, most of us, but do you think Euron actually believes that he's going to get this?
Who is Euron?
I don't think
Greyjoy?
so, but I think he's going to make her do it, or he'll get something on her to force her to marry him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is going to happen.
I don't know who Euron Greyjoy is on this show. Euron Greyjoy is a cartoon character right now. He has absolutely no... His only character is he's violent, honest. And he really wants to marry a queen for some reason. He likes to mock Jaime. That's all his character so far.
The actor is having so much fun with that.
Clearly.
I think that's the best part of watching Euron is, he's a cartoon character, but holy hell, that actor is having so much fun.
I know. It makes...
Peter Osbach is a really, really good actor. I wish he has a better character to actually hang on, because I feel like his acting is actually doing more work than the writing is in giving life to Euron Greyjoy.
I think he's much better this season. I didn't like the casting of him originally.
Yeah.
It really annoys me. He's got a different accent to the rest of his family. I don't know why they did that.
He's been away for so long.
Ridiculous. Well, no, they grew up together, so
he picked it up in his travels.
And he is a bit over the top, but I think he is a mixture of Victorian and Euron, isn't he? So, but I think he's going to betray Cersei. I think he's going to. It's this Game of Thrones, and you're always expecting the unexpected. And somebody's going to betray somebody, and that's all I can see happening is him switching to Dany at some vital moment. It's the only way I can see Dany getting back into the game, really.
Right.
I cannot wait for Jaime's "I told you so" moment when that happens.
Right.
Just a look at his face.
What I don't understand about Euron is, okay, if he really wants to get Cersei, right? Who would think that taunting and teasing her brother lover is a good way to accomplish that? It just doesn't make any sense. But he's chaos, so I guess.
Chaos is so much fun to watch.
It's sort of a dynamic we've seen in previous seasons, where you have this kind of lawful evil character like Tywin or Lord Bolton or like the High Sparrow, and then you have these sort of chaotic evil characters like Joffrey and Ramsay, and the sort of the aristocratic position will try and use the chaotic character to get retribution or do dirty work or things like that, but the chaotic figure often turns against the lawful character. So like Bolton gets stabbed by Ramsay, it sort of gets out of hand. So I like that idea that Cersei's, I guess you could see it in the Mountain as well, she's used this evil creature as a weapon, but it might actually turn against her. So as much as she might be thinking she's playing Euron, he might think he's playing her. So it might come to a head, even though they're succeeding at the moment. I can't see a happy ending for those two.
No.
I wonder if he's going to end up going, as you said, he's kind of a mix of Victorian and Euron at the moment. If he ends up going full Euron by the end, he's like, this is just a facade that he's using and teasing us with, and then by the end of this season or into next season, you see him for the true horrific evil that you see in the prophecy release chapter, the one with Danfer being tortured.
Right.
It's a shame though, because we haven't seen any of that like weird religious stuff where he has the dragon horn and he's trying to like enslave gods and all this creepy like Cthulhu stuff. He's basically just a berserker. But I think he's sort of, I mean, at the end of the day, even if he doesn't get a marriage out of it, he's still like basically given free reign over the narrow sea, which is kind of all an Ironborn wants anyway, with like the backing of a royal power. Right. He's able to build up his navy.
Well, who else has ships?
Yeah, exactly. He's plundering to his heart's
content. There are no other ships now. He's got them all. He's burned them all down. What I'm wondering, speaking of that chapter, though, is if next week or the week after, we're going to see Yara in the Dampier role, i.e. getting tortured and whatever as a result. So maybe we'll get some of that book stuff here with her.
I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I suspect torture.
I hadn't thought of that, and now I'm so sad. Yeah.
No.
He's teasing.
I thought of that, and I'm too sad. Too sad. I feel sick in my stomach now because it could happen.
I think it's.
And as well, he's already treating her like a dog or a pet with that lead around her neck, so it wouldn't be surprising, but I hope not.
Although that would kind of parallel with Theon. It would sort of parallel what Theon went through. Like he was being tortured by Ramsay, and she tried to rescue him, and maybe that will be his way of like redeeming himself, but I hope we don't see any of that.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It would be very nice, and as well it means she'd be able to understand Theon a lot better and what he's been through.
Right, yeah. What did you think of Cersei torturing the sand snakes? Was there any sympathy there, or did they deserve it?
My only thought,
such a great scene. Sorry.
It was good fun, but I was waiting for the mountain to rape the daughter personally. That's what I was expecting to happen.
Right.
And I was like, please don't have it. Please don't. And they didn't go there, so.
No.
Good.
Yay.
Thank God.
And it was much more vicious, too, I thought.
Oh, it's cruel.
It was very vindictive.
It's nice.
Yep.
It was very much an eye for an eye, which is what they do to each other, so.
And
I thought that was good.
It calls back to a conversation from like season 6 where Cersei's talking about imagining Myrcella like slowly rotting in her coffin, which I've forgotten about. But it's almost like she's trying to inflict her psychological suffering on others as a way of like expelling it or exercising it or something.
Yep. Definitely. You also have to give a lot of credit to Indira Varma for all that acting with a gag on. She just killed it.
This is the best acting.
I was going to say it, like, when she spat in front of the throne and just, she was...
Her look at the mountain as well was brilliant.
Yep, all of it.
I mean,
she did more for the look.
It was beyond dirty look. It was really, really good. It's a pity that she didn't get to play the Ilaria Sand from the books because she would have been fantastic. But it's nice that this might be her second last scene or the second last episode that she's in, and I think she came out of it, so you couldn't stop watching her. She did so well.
Right.
Well, no, I hate the Sand Snakes, but I thought Ilaria was like, her acting was fantastic, and that she actually made me feel sympathy for the Sand Snakes, which is a hard deal.
Yeah.
Or at least
I'm still disappointed that they, the fact that they're not the Sand Snakes that we know and love from the books. I mean, I kept thinking they were really close to Cersei, and if they were the real Sand Snakes, they would have sort of got a headbutt on her or something like that. A couple of times she came right up close, and because they know they're going to die, do you know what I mean? They would have gone down fighting if they were true to character, but they were...
Yeah. I was waiting for Alara. I was waiting for Ilaria to actually just kick Cersei when she was standing up close, because yes, she couldn't actually reach Cersei, but you can kick her because I don't think her feet were tied to anything. So I was waiting for that to happen, and then it didn't happen. And I was like, you missed a great chance. You could have bit her ears off or something.
Yeah, she could have ripped her tongue out.
But then they take it out of her
jaw. Or a punt to something that rhymes with it. I would watch that.
Yep, anything.
But then her daughter would suffer.
She's going to suffer anyway.
She knew her daughter was going to die anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
I just think that's what the Sand Snakes would have done. The ones we know would have done anyway.
I imagine in Dawn there's like celebrations now that like Doran's killers have been prosecuted. Trista
We gotta wonder
killers.
what's going on down there.
Yeah.
But we'll never know, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine they support these people.
Right.
Is that what we're supposed to think? That they support Ilaria and they won't engage in the war now?
Well, they had
They've
ships.
got her a hostage.
It seemed
They
like
provided ships.
when Ilaria killed Doran, like none of the guards did anything. So the implication was they thought he was weak and that they sided with the Sand Snakes. But like killing Trista, horrible.
There's no characters to Dorn. Dorn is just...
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess. I think that the show just wants to move on with Dorn as much as possible.
Right. And they have.
I guess it's safe to assume they're no longer an ally of Dany, like now that the head's been bitten off.
No.
Well, their ships are, who knows what's going on left down there now. I mean,
it doesn't matter, and right, Dorn is just Ilaria and the Sand Snakes. Tyrells are just Olenna, and some of them are now Tarly, Reno Tarly.
Right.
It's just named character now represents the entire region, and that's it. That's the show.
And to be fair, they don't have time to get into all that detail.
That's true.
They don't have 1,500 pages.
Maybe in a couple of episodes we'll have Jaime mentioning that Dawn is in revolt and they're completely unable to hold anything that they had there, and it will just be an offhand remark and something small like that. Does anyone else find it really weird the way that Cersei talks about Marcella? Because Cersei's whole thing is, I am a woman and I had no autonomy. I couldn't do anything that I wanted to do, and all I wanted to be is a male so I could wield the sword and do things that I wanted to do. But Cersei, in her own twisted way, she only talks about Marcella as a possession, and I guess that shows how self-centered Cersei is. But you think she would have that kind of sympathy for her only daughter of going, well, I don't want you to go through what I went through, so I'm not going to just see you as a piece to be moved. I'm going to see you as a person. But she never talks about Marcella as a person. She only talks about her as something that is owned by her.
Yeah, I think the way she's described in the books is like her children are the only things she does kind of love, more than herself. Right. But the fact that they're dead now, I think possibly it's created a bit of a distance, so she can no longer think of them as her children.
Even when Marcella was alive, she did it though.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, it's just this really weird like Marcella thing. I just get slightly annoyed at. But the other good thing is when Cersei was talking about Marcella, like Lena Headey was just crazy eyes. She did well. It must be really hard to act that well in such a bad wig.
And she gets really turned on by torturing people, because the next scene she's ravishing Jaime, which I got a bit of a Mad King vibe with, from like when he burns people.
There's an interesting parallel between this scene and the infamous rape scene in season 4, because you see how the power dynamic is now completely shifted, and Jaime did say no at the very beginning before she did it anyways.
I think it's very similar to the way that Cersei treats Tana Merryweather in the books. Cersei has the power and she's kind of taking on this masculine role, so she takes what she wants, and if that is another person, she'll do it anyway.
Right.
So yeah, it's Jaime as Tana.
She claims her rights.
Interesting. Yeah, but it is also like that, scene from season 4, which shouldn't be spoken about.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's just, I forgot how angry that scene made me until my eye started doing that weird quivery thing.
And Cersei no longer cares that everyone knows that she and Jaime are a couple, which is
interesting.
Funny because like that's the catalyst for the whole series, where Jaime pushes Bran out of the window to protect that secret, and now she no longer cares about it. Yep. I guess it's just this kind of ultimate power, and it's kind of the thing that Jaime's always dreamed of, that they would be king and queen, and they wouldn't care with the rest of the world, and they just rule over a graveyard, and now that's what's coming to fruition.
I don't think Jaime wanted to be king and queen, but he wanted to be like the Targaryens and just to be out and open about it. I think this episode you get a shot of his face when he's in bed and he looks happy about having people know about them. And I have a point. That poison does not make sense, because how is it you can have it on your own lips and you kiss someone and they die but you don't die? Does not make sense. And then he just wipes it off, pretends it's gone, and then goes and makes out with hubby over there. Ugh.
She drank an antidote, so that was the answer, I think.
Will Cersei now lose interest if everyone knows about her and Jaime? Like, the taboo was probably half the fun, and now like, people know she's like, I actually am not having fun anymore. I liked the sneaking.
No, but as well, everyone else is like, damn it, they had to go and wreck it. Why couldn't they just pretend no one knew and didn't want anyone else to know so we could keep gossiping? Seriously, why do you have to wreck all the fun?
Right.
I think it's just part of it. Cersei thinking she's invincible. She doesn't care now. There's no recourse. She's destroyed the Sparrow and everyone that would, the ones that would decry that. And there is the history of the Targaryens and stuff. And I don't think she cares. She thinks she can do what she wants.
Any thoughts on the Iron Bank scene?
I'm sorry, the Iron Bank slavery? What the fuck? Like, they just turned into any bank and just been like... I was trying to figure out in the books, do they mention slavery?
No, because Bravos was founded by former slaves.
Exactly, right? But it would make sense that a bank of all places, that would be the first person to kind of like throw off the chains of morals.
Well, okay, so there's the idea of bankers doing business with slavers. Do they do business with the slavers? I don't know.
How do they not in Essos? I mean, how would they not? That would be cutting off like half of the potential sources of income. I feel like they almost have to because, I mean, let's face it, you've got like half the continent is run by slavers.
That's it. It's never explicitly mentioned that in the books whether they did or not. They could. Right. They could not. I mean,
they would have had to do business with them. But I mean, if the implication was that Dany smashing this slave trade had caused such economic chaos that they'd suffered for it, that'd be fine. But the fact that he says the slave trade is in a downturn implies that they're directly benefiting from slavery, which is so anti what Bravos is about.
Right.
Isn't that what profit is?
No. But there's a difference between you directly profiting off the slave trade, meaning that you're investing in the slave trade, or you're just dealing with these businessmen on other deals that may have indirectly or indirectly tied to a slave trade, right? The
difference between bankers in Amsterdam back in the day and the merchants in England. You know, the merchants in England were directly dealing with the slave trade, but they had deals with the bankers in Amsterdam who were funding their ships.
But Tycho Nestoris could just be lying. Could just be fucking around with Cersei. Who knows in the show right now?
True.
I don't know if the show
He rocks up to Dragonstone next episode. So, had this fascinating conversation with Cersei. What you gonna do about it?
That would be awesome, though, if he actually went to Dragonstone and says, we hate slavery, we love what you've done. We've been playing Cersei, here's what we know. Something like that. But they won't do it.
They won't.
It's too,
definitely not.
Yeah, it's too smart.
Plus, she has no money.
But she has dragons.
It was just a way of getting Cersei to have something on the Iron Bank. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense within the reality of the world.
Yeah, and she's like, I'll pay you back in 2 weeks. What's that? That is being overconfident, Cersei.
Right. But remember that the Reach has pretty much all the money in Westeros right now. I mean, we know that unlike in the books, in the show, Casterly Rock has no gold left. They've got all the wine, all the food, basically everything in the Reach that you need for money. So they've now taken that. So they've basically taken the Bank of Westeros. So that's where the money, I'm assuming, is going to come from in a fortnight, which is just a couple of weeks. So
yeah, that's the way I read it as well. Yeah.
So we'll go to Winterfell next. So Sansa anticipates that Winterfell will be the primary refuge once the White Walkers invade and orders vassal houses to start sending grain shipments. Littlefinger continues to try and convince her that she needs to dedicate more attention to gain political advantages over Jon and Cersei, but Sansa ignores him. Just then, Bran arrives back at Winterfell and the siblings embrace. However, as they talk, it becomes clear that Bran is very changed. He is cold and aloof and demonstrates clairvoyant abilities by recalling Sansa's wedding night with Ramsay, much to her horror. Thoughts on this scene?
When it was shown in the trailer, it looked like a really powerful, like that Sansa walking away part looked like a really awesome Sansa just being like, no, I'm fucking owning shit, I'm done. When you see it played out in the scene, it's not that at all.
Very different.
It feels like
text was needed.
It feels like she was running away from it, and it looked like she was having a panic attack about it.
Which she probably was. That's what post-traumatic stress does,
Sure, yeah.
Like Reek. Okay, admit it though. Yeah. Did anyone cry?
No, but I think it was really well done.
I did. I will admit it, mainly because I thought Sophie really played it so well that it brought me, even though he was a little creepy, She brought me to tears.
It was so
not as many as we will with others, but I liked it.
It was so sudden.
Moving,
I didn't have a chance to get ready for it because the wall didn't even send a letter. He just appears. Right. It was weird. And I was trying to think, did Sansa know that Bran was alive? Did Theon say that he hadn't killed the Stark siblings?
He actually did.
He did. Okay, that makes sense. Because otherwise, she'd be like, "What? Are you back from the dead?"
I just was very, very annoyed at Bran's characterization. He's like the shitty kid at 15 who reads Nietzsche and is all nihilism and I don't have emotions because I'm above it now. I'm the three-eyed raven. I don't need emotions.
He just watched Fight Club for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Where I can kind of understand Bran ending up being that character, but maybe after all the Starks are dead, when all of his emotional contact to the past is now gone and they've passed on, I can imagine Bran being like that, but not straight away. Also, how pissed off must Sansa be? She's like, cool, so all of my brothers are discussing my sexual past. Nice.
True.
I mean, he could have used a different example, couldn't he, really? He didn't.
Right?
Why did he pick that night? He could have chosen anything to prove his powers to her.
Yeah, he was trying to be a little sympathetic, but it didn't work out that well.
And he can explain.
Yeah, because
really.
he just watched Fight
silly.
Club and had no emotions.
I guess the idea is that he's so out of touch with humanity. I mean, I guess he left Winterfell as a child, so he hasn't really learned any social etiquette. Combined with, traveling through time and being plugged into a tree, he's just sort of been unmoored from all of that. He exists in this weird limbo space. But it's sad. It's really sad because last season, he still felt like an optimistic little kid. He was really pining for home, and he was seeing his family members, and the three-eyed raven was saying, you can't stay in these memories, but he really wanted to. He still felt like a human being, but now it all seems to be sucked out of him. It was so sad.
It seems like he's changed gears since he plugged into the weirwood net at the end of the last season, as in he was still the same person, and then that last time he went in, it's flipped a switch and he's very, very different now.
Right.
Well, could it also be, we've talked a lot about trauma with a lot of these characters between Theon and Sansa, and let's just remember he was just responsible for destroying Hodor's life and letting him be killed. And I wonder how much that impacted on him too, that's right, so that whole thing may have messed him up just a little, and it may not be surprising that a kid would retreat into, okay, I can't deal with this crap.
Oh, it makes perfect sense, and it echoes what Arya's sort of state of mind we see a couple episodes ago. But it is, because it's one of those things where you always want to see the Starks return to Winterfell, the Stark kids being reunited. Right. But the stuff that they've gone through, it can almost never be the same. It can never go back to the way it was. They're so traumatized by what they've been through that they can't. Obviously, they love seeing each other again, but it just they just can't connect in the same way. There's a lot of healing that has to happen before it can be normal again.
Yeah, he's obviously feeling the responsibility of his being the three-eyed raven as well, I suppose. But he could have explained it better. But the other thing I was going to ask, which came up in our little gang, does he? We can see the past, everything that's happened. Has he got the green sight as well in the show or not? Has he got Jojen's visions of the future? Because one of my cousins asked me if she felt that Bran had seen something Sansa do in the future, possibly betraying Jon, and that led to him being so cold and aloof with Sansa. So
it's not clear.
I wasn't clear in my mind if he had the green sight or if it was just the weirwood network that he could.
I'm not sure it's clear. I'm not sure it's clear in their minds, so we're not sure yet. Maybe we'll find out. That is a good theory, though. I like it.
Could anyone understand what Littlefinger was talking about to Sansa when he was saying, fight all battles on all fronts and fight in the future and the past? And it almost, resembled what Bran was saying.
It felt like chess. He's saying, plan any move that can be done against you so you don't get surprised. The funny thing about it is he doesn't follow his own advice. He didn't know what to do after pushing his new wife out the window. He didn't know what was going on with Sansa and Ramsay. He didn't know a lot of that stuff. So it's kind of ironic that he gave her, I thought, good advice, but he doesn't actually necessarily follow it.
Or he thinks he follows it, but he doesn't actually follow it.
Right.
And as well, with that advice, it only works if you know everything that's going on. If you don't know something, then you have a massive blind spot, and that's what'll get you.
Right.
And you won't even expect it because you won't think that's a possibility.
Right.
Yeah, it's generally good advice, isn't it, really, that you need the information. Like she's over-focusing on the battle to the north because that's what's at hand, but there is all the other factors. You can't sort of abandon all that. So I think it's generally good advice.
And I was really happy to see her being in charge and getting to not necessarily rule, but getting to show that she is an intelligent young woman and use her power and show that, hey, I'm not stupid. I do know what I'm talking about. Listen to me. I thought that was really nice to see. And it's great to see her grow so much from season 1.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right, I agree. Although you could argue, what good really is leather going to do on mail?
Yeah, but if you touch mail with bare fingers and it's freezing, all of your skin will be ripped off. If you have the leather, that'll at least stop that.
A lot of Northmen are going to be really happy that their nipples are still attached to their bodies because there's leather.
Actually have nipples on a breastplate, yeah.
There you go. Oh, no. Batman. So weird little nitpick I had was, remember when the Maester and her were talking and she said, you know, what's the longest winter you've known? And the Maester was like, I don't know. I'll have to look up into Lewin's notes. I'm like, didn't you live through this? Like, or at least a few of them? Like, don't you know this?
Shouldn't you know this? That's the big one. Shouldn't you know?
Right?
That's right, yeah.
Like, winter's
I
coming
feel
up.
like all Maesters would be able to list the longest winter if you're like 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. Like, you could rattle off any amount of time and they'd be able to do it immediately.
The only thing I could think is that maybe it was nice to have a little callback to Lewin. That's all I could think.
No, but all it made me think is, get a new Maester. This one's shit.
Right? I agree.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a good Maester. Get one who knows their stuff. Get Sam.
Hook Bran into the tree. We need to talk to Lewin.
There we go.
Yes, do it.
Well, he was
That'll work.
He was the Bolton Maester, wasn't he? He was probably just kidnapped during some battle.
Okay, there you go.
But you think Sansa would know anyway, really? I mean, it's the whole thing about the Starks. It's winter, isn't it, really? And it's only the last 100 years they were talking about, and then she, with her lessons or whatever, you thought she would probably...
Yeah, but
the Maester should definitely have the knowledge, but you'd thought she'd know anyway as well.
Well, they wouldn't have her study that probably so much. She has to study how to be a lady.
Yeah,
and she had to study houses and things like that, and I don't think running a household was her weakest point in the books, and that's where Arya was strongest. So yeah,
I have no idea what they're planning with Littlefinger. It feels like he's been a fifth wheel for this whole this whole episode so far, because originally he was what brought the Vale Knights into the fold, but now they're already in the fold, and now the Lords of the Vale command their loyalty. So he brokered that alliance, but he doesn't actually have any of his own men. He doesn't actually bring anything to the table at this point, other than like just sitting around creepily and obviously conspiring against everyone. So I don't know why they haven't just kicked him out. I mean, he offers counsel to Sansa, but she just like kind of rejects all of it.
Right.
No, but he's just there to creepy perv on Sansa, and she is like, I guess you kind of give me okay advice. Maybe, I don't know. And then
I could watch an entire episode of Sansa just shutting down Littlefinger. She's done so well so far this season. It's get in your place, little man.
And he's always leaning against that wall and like raising his eyebrow.
Can he stand on his own 2 feet, man? Do you need to be leaning?
He's propping that
wall.
Is
that how you think?
That's the only reason he's there.
That's the reason why they haven't kicked him out yet.
I'm waiting for the Game of Thrones Scrubs mashup where Sansa just goes all Cox on Littlefinger. She's like, the only way you would be more useless leaning against this wall is if you became part of the wall. But then you would be a weight-bearing load, and you would be more useful than you're doing right now. Anyway, badly paraphrased.
Exactly, yeah. All right, let's move on. So we had a brief scene in Old Town where Jorah is healed of his grayscale.
Wait, sorry, just quickly with the Old Town thing. I love how they just set him free. It's not like the Archmaster will be like, cool, you're the first adult of that age that has ever been healed. We are keeping you here forever to study you.
Right, or even... gee, you're healed. Oh, you're healed. Go. Like, it's only been like, what, a couple of hours? Like, maybe you want to check to see if there isn't some recurrence of it.
Yeah, it's like,
Or like, wait a month.
tie him down. We need to dissect him immediately.
Right.
Or like, have a
pretty
test
right.
and see
Like
if anybody else
vivisection.
starts getting grayscale. But
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Wouldn't that be an awful way for him to go? He just gets dissected, and that's the end of Jorah's story.
portrayed in the
but
Old
it's for
Town
the greater
Museum.
good.
Jim Broadbent happily doing it and Sam just crying in the corner.
Right.
Well, I guess in the reality of the show, it may have been like more than a month, just because armies are moving across continents. So maybe it's actually been longer than we think.
Well, they kind of seemed like the next day. I mean, it seemed like it was supposed to be the next day because he literally was. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe they didn't show it well, but it felt like it was meant to be the next day. I don't know.
It can't have been the next day. John goes from Winterfell to Dragonstone.
Right.
I refuse to accept.
Sorry.
Teleporting. Littlefinger's teleporter.
And the removal of those of the grayscale, that was at least at the depth of like definitely a second to third degree burn. So you're looking at a month of healing at least.
Right.
So that's probably the amount of time that's passed. It gives, moving armies, and it gives you time for Jon to get to Dragonstone.
I really enjoy the Sam scenes. Like, he's so optimistic. It's such like an antidote to the rest of the episode.
Oh, he's brilliant, isn't he?
Right. Here's, the other thing is, I don't know if anyone saw, they like online posted, actually like Game of Thrones itself posted like close-ups of a lot of the pages they were reading, and fans did it as well. And in some of the text, there was some talk about a potential like ingesting dragonglass could be possibly a cure. And there was no mention of it at all, but yet they went to the trouble of putting this in the text for people to read if you frame and whatever it. And yet they never mentioned it, and it just was just some ointment. I was hoping there would at least be like dragonglass in the ointment or something, but apparently not, or we didn't hear about it. Just an odd choice to set this thing up for like the real like diehards to see. Maybe it was just a tease, I don't know, but then they never did anything with it.
Maybe you have to like snort dragonglass to kind of keep the grayscale at bay, and Jorah now has a horrible nose candy problem.
He gets hooked on obsidian.
Yes, into season 8, he has no septum. He's just snorted it away.
Well, but he is heading there. He's heading to where it all is, so...
Just this Tony
That's
Montana
the reason why.
Obsidian.
He rubs part of the castle and then rubs it on his gums.
There you go.
Nice. So you reckon we all think he's heading to Dany?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where else would Jorah be going?
True, yeah.
Khaleesi.
Gonna get the Gendry ferry, I reckon.
It was
Oh,
nice.
so it's going to take a couple of years.
I liked him thanking Sam, and Sam telling him like he owed a debt to his father. Because in the books, like Jorah doesn't like his final words to Sam are like tell Jorah I'm sorry or I forgive him or something. So it's actually nice that they actually interact.
Does he ask him to take the black or something? I can't remember.
Maybe, yeah. Haven't read that.
Yeah, it's something like that, like taking the back and like everything will be forgiven. It's one of those just come home and everything will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, isn't he supposed to be like exiled from Westeros?
Correct.
Shouldn't the
Yeah.
I guess he was gonna die, but shouldn't once he was healed the Maesters turn him into the Night's Watch?
Do they know who he is?
That's
He
why you
told
have Dany
Sam.
pardon him.
Well, he says he's an anointed knight, so I figured they knew who he was. I guess that the closest person to turn him into was the Tyrells, and they're like currently besieged, so he's just like, just go, just get out of here, you.
Right.
Well, and it was a rule issued by Ned Stark, who is technically a traitor to the throne. So maybe his rules doesn't matter anymore.
True.
Maybe, yeah.
Westerosi cops just have the worst record keeping ever. It's just at the bottom of the inbox somewhere.
Well, maybe. Actually, I mean, if you think about it, would all of the little details make it all across the country? Something like that? Who knows? Here's a question.
They had a couple of books to write it down in somewhere.
Right. What do you think the odds are that something important is in those scrolls he's reading? Like, likely?
100%.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
maybe he slipped in.
Only reason why he's getting punished.
right?
It's not even like organize these books, it's rewrite these. And he's like,
Right.
oh, okay. Oh, this is how you cure this and this and this. That's how you kill White Walkers. This is how you build the wall. God.
Wait.
It's definitely a step up from Pan Judy.
Yeah.
Sam should be counting his blessings.
He should be.
Although I love how modest Sam is. I've read medical texts from even just like the 1800s describing how they do things. They're impossible to read. So for Sam to be just like, I just read it and followed the instructions. No, fuck off. No, you did not. Like, those are hard. Like, they make no sense. They probably barely made sense to the person who wrote them. Just, no. Stop being modest and just be like, yes, I am God. I can heal all. Because it's also throwing some massive shade on other maces. Like, well, they just didn't follow the instructions because they're dipshits.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Sam's like, oh, what? Like, it's hard?
Like, they just kept trying to improvise. You don't do that. Just follow the bloody instructions. Oh my God.
All right, let's move on to the final scene in the episode. So Dany's Unsullied launch an assault upon Casterly Rock, and thanks to a secret passageway revealed by Tyrion, are able to storm and capture it. However, they quickly realize that the castle is largely empty and then witness their ships being attacked by the Greyjoy fleet. Unbeknownst to Tyrion, Jaime has led the Lannister army out of the Westerlands to attack and capture Highgarden, thus knocking out another of Dany's allies and securing capital for the Iron Bank. Jaime accepts Olenna Tyrell's surrender and offers her poison rather than the humiliation Cersei has in store. She drinks it and then taunts Jaime with the fact that he is completely enthralled to Cersei and that Joffrey's assassination was her doing. So rest in peace, Olenna Tyrell, going out like a boss.
Everyone says that.
Yeah.
Diana Rigg, we did not deserve thee.
Right?
She's so good. Like, she elevates the writing so much. It sounds so good coming out of her mouth. It's so dignified.
Absolute classic scene, I thought. Superb. That's what I was saying. I love the show and tell aspect of like the battles with Tyrion sort of narrating the.
Yeah,
that was really well done as well.
Yeah.
I liked it.
That was some great editing.
Right?
Like, the people who put that together, it was great.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but I love when a show, someone will start talking and then it'll switch to what they're talking about and it becomes narration. Like, it feels so epic.
Right.
Because you see the plot in motion and then they subvert the plan. You realize that it's an unreliable narrator because the plan isn't actually going the way it should. It was a really brilliant sequence. And it conveyed, like, so much happened. We got 2 major battles in the span of, like, 5 minutes. Like, the show is just moving at an incredible speed.
Right. Although, did you notice there was almost no actual footage of the battle at Highgarden because, let's face it, it was just a massacre? Because, I mean, who did she really have defending them at this point when presumably all of her bannermen are now against her and attacking?
Sure, yeah.
Or that's what we think because there aren't any other bannermen?
Yeah, I've got to imagine the Tarly just, like, once Tarly went with the Lannisters, a lot of the others followed. It was sort of done in secret and they basically let them march straight up to the castle. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. Which then leads to the question of, did you really need all the Lannister troops for this? When you already had their own troops down there for you? You know, could you have won both of them? But
well, yeah, I don't know. I guess just to be sure. And also, it's almost like any troops you leave in the castle are definitely gonna die, so you might as well just take most of them.
I think that it was trapping the Unsullied in the castle was better strategically than fighting them and wasting a lot of resources fighting them and losing a lot of resources doing so.
It's brilliant. I mean, now they can't even leave the castle because the Ironborn have burnt all their ships. They're completely taken out of the equation. On
the other hand, this does assume that Jaime knew that Tyrion would be able to get into the castle through the plumbing, because, you know, realistically, would he have known that?
Yeah.
Not clear, I guess.
Well, yeah, he knows Tyrion's background. I like it. It's 2 brothers facing off against each other, and Jaime is able to outthink Tyrion. It's nice to see that. Jaime is, a good military leader.
It sort of didn't matter.
But I don't... Yeah, because either way, the Unsullied would be trapped between Lannister forces. So it doesn't, the Greyjoy, Euron's forces, but it didn't really matter whether or not they were in the castle or not.
And Tyrion, when he's laying out the plan, he also references Bronn's line about impregnating a castle. So maybe it was Bronn that realized that Tyrion would have a secret passage in, and actually
That's a good point.
turn the plot against him. Because I mean, as we've said, Tyrion it's a great political mind, but he's not a military mind. That's Jaime and Bronn's forte. Right. So he was easily outmatched.
I do like Jaime finally being like, yes, I can kill one of my enemies, and Olenna just, no, this one victory you think you have, nah, mine.
Yeah, she sees the last word.
The showrunners inside the episode, D.B. Weiss said, she beats him in the middle of her own death scene, and he says it was his favorite scene, like Olenna scene, just because it shows how badass she is, essentially.
Which probably most of us agree with, right?
It's also another great callback to earlier events in the series that were so pivotal, because it was kind of like the beginning of the downfall for the Lannisters, because they all kind of turned on each other. Tywin was killed because Tyrion was accused. So it's almost like, I doubt Jaime's grieving Joffrey, but he's grieving the whole mess that caused.
One thing I also like the little references in here again, like for instance, as Jaime was marching up, we heard the Rains of Castamere, and I loved his reference of how he learned something from Robb Stark's Whispering Wood victory, and the little bit also where I loved during their conversation when he admits, his situation with her has gone beyond his control. When he admitted that, I liked that. He basically admits he's out of control when it comes with Cersei. She's got it.
Which is a big change from the book, because he turns against her throughout book 4. It's kind of him. It's the first time he's off on his own. He's kind of becoming his own man again, away from Cersei. He has that dream with his mother and then throws the letter in the fire. Whereas he's still enthralled to Cersei. Like, he's still kind of controlled by her. He still believes in her. He sort of justifies a lot of what she's doing because ultimately it will secure some kind of stability for the realm. But I think Olenna's words about her being a monster and him being in love with her really kind of stuck the knife in a bit. So this may be the beginning of him falling out of love with Cersei. Like, it's got to happen eventually, I think.
Yeah, I got that impression.
I've been waiting for it to happen for so long. I thought it was going to happen after this blow up of Septa Baelor. It was going to happen after he found out about Tommen. Nope, didn't happen.
It just doesn't.
I thought that,
and it should have happened.
Well, on some level, they need to give. I mean, otherwise, she still needs to have these allies. That's why they're bringing in Euron to be big. They're having Jaime. They're giving them some victory. I mean, isn't the first half of this season basically, no, really, this isn't going to be a complete blowout because you have dragons. We're trying to, at least make Cersei seem like a competent challenge here, or else, let's face it, the season would just be like a blowout, which we might love, but isn't really great drama, So you have to have Jaime on her side for now, and then slowly, hopefully, he'll move away, and then that'll be her downfall. And dragons.
But none of Cersei's victories are her own. Without Euron, without Jaime, she would just be in the throne room demanding things that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Don't tell Cersei that.
Right.
It makes sense that he's loyal to the crown and he's loyal to House Lannister and that he would oppose this foreign queen invader. But it's more the relationship with Cersei that still seems so strong. But like, you can see the gaps, like him saying no when she came onto him. Like, you can see it's not an equal power balance and he's uncomfortable about a lot of it. And I tend to not like the scenes where he's with Cersei as much, but when he's off on his own, talking with other characters, he becomes much more charismatic and alive, but he's a bit cowed when he's around Cersei.
Right. One other thing I really liked is a little thought I had, which is that you realize this is about the second big time that Jaime has showed some mercy. After all, he freed Tyrion, and look what happened. He regretted it because look what happened, right? And now he spared Olenna. He let her kill. I mean, she did die, but he didn't do it painfully. He showed her mercy. And how did she repay him? By telling him that she killed his son, And oh, by the way, tell her. So like this, and you could see it in his eyes. Like, what did I do? Although he does walk out, he does what he could have. Like, I was kind of wondering if he was going to like grab the sword and be like, well, you know what, tough. But he did just walk out and still gave her that dignity, which I really liked.
Yeah, it was a great moment. What do you think will set him over the edge in terms of Cersei? Like, what can she do? Will it be something involving Tyrion? Like,
threaten to kill Brienne.
No, he catches up with Brienne, and Brienne just gives him a massive backhand across the face and being like, what the fuck, man? You are on the right path. What are you doing with your shit? Oathkeeper, I kept my oaths. What are you doing?
He has Widow's Wail now, so he needs to go kill Cersei. She's a widow, so.
Hey, that's a point.
Yeah, so he needs to do that because that's what I'm holding out for. Because I'm a JB shipper, and I don't think that's happening, so he at least needs to kill Cersei, and then I'll be happy.
Or like Brienne just sees him and shakes her head and walks off, and he's like, no, Brienne.
And then he runs after her and is just like, Brienne, no, please. Kill Cersei for me because I can't do it and she's bad for me. She's like a drug.
But Brienne has Tormund.
Tormund is not the same as Jaime, okay?
She may not want Tormund, but she wants it.
Tormund wants Brienne, not the other way around.
I know.
Yeah, I don't think it's mutual.
Clearly. So far.
Unrequited wildling love.
Brienne likes pretty boys. It has been established. We all know it. She likes pretty boys. She was into Renly. She's into Jaime. Pretty boys.
Can't argue.
And Tormund's way too ruggedly handsome, so. Does that mean she's going to go for Jon? Ew.
Oh, there you go.
No, Jon's the pretty boy. Pod is more like boyishly handsome puppy type thing, so it's not pretty boy. But, like, please don't go for Jon. Oh, my God.
No, so.
That is not allowed to happen.
One other thing I liked also was a little parallel in that we have a lot of talk and use of poison in this episode, and I kind of like the symmetry of first the scene with Tyene, and then the Olenna getting poisoned, and then doing the callback to Joffrey's. So we've got kind of like all different aspects of poison affecting the Lannister lives.
Yeah, and Olenna makes a comment about Cersei being this kind of disease. And I wonder if that's connected to the poison and also, I guess, visually to the grayscale that we see on Jorah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this idea that these past vendettas or these past feuds that all these characters harbor grudges over, it basically poisons everything. It's just this kind of rotting aspect of Westerosi society that perhaps like Jaime glimpses the truth of when he watches Olenna succumb to poison while taunting him about poisoning his son. So I think that frames nicely with the Jon-Dany conversation where they also are harboring these grudges about what happened to the past members of their family, but they're trying to like transcend it and work together and build some kind of future together.
Yeah.
I like the difference of poison as torture and poison as mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, like it.
Yeah.
Talking about it now, there's a lot of callbacks to previous events in the series. And a lot of references to sort of the dead characters like Tom and Myrcella, Joffrey all get sort of memorialized. Rickon and Robb are mentioned by Dany. It's, yeah.
Joffrey gets memorialized and being called a cunt.
Which is the best kind of memorial.
Put it on his tombstone.
Brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah, and even Ramsay gets mentioned.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone's dead. Like, we were watching a making of, and you having all the interviews with all the Game of Thrones actors, and just like 90% of them were dead.
Yep.
Seriously.
There's just nothing. There's just barely anyone left, which is good, I guess, because you can get a more tighter focus on what's happening. But Dawn's out of the picture.
Yeah, and
the Reach is out of the picture.
And they keep bringing in new characters, like with Euron and stuff. So. Yeah, you got to kill some people off to fit them in.
The only major new character, I think.
Right. They've kind of slowed that down now, but
yeah.
The only major new character this season is the Archmaester.
Right.
Sure,
yeah.
Because Euron was last season.
Yeah.
So it's really like one or two characters per thing. So it's like Jaime and Cersei, King's Landing. Old Town is Sam and the Maester. Dany, obviously Dragonstone's got like 4 or 5.
Everyone.
North is basically Sansa and just a bunch of advisors and
Baelish,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
And Bran now and Mira.
The Wall's completely out of the story. It's funny.
Mira.
It's really tightened up.
Until it comes down.
How pissed does Mira be? Like, she gets Bran to the Wall. They just look at Bran.
Oh.
She gets Bran home, and she's just like, "Can someone just acknowledge me? Am I invisible? Like,
can someone say thank you?"
Oh, Mira. Yes. Oh my god.
Like, she pulled a fucking sled and has kept it alive for how many seasons? Like, that girl deserves a medal and to marry Bran and be happy.
No, she does not deserve that.
I don't think Bran is capable of making anyone happy now.
Yeah. But he
I
used
just
to
want to see
ride
like
her.
next shot, like next episode, it's just Mira getting back to the neck and like crawling up like on the couch next to her dad and just being like, it's been so fucking shit.
Right.
Like I am never leaving the neck again.
I got it.
I hate
Just
Mira.
need some frogs and some crocodiles and everything will be okay.
I think Sansa actually probably does need a friend her own age, though, so I think Mira would be a good fit.
That's good.
Like Sansa and Mira are getting along, and then Arya turns up at Winterfell, and Sansa's just kind of like locked out of the hard ass younger women club because it's like her, Lady Mormont, Mira, Lady Mormont, and Arya just hanging out doing badass things, and Sansa's like, I guess I'll govern. I can't really talk about
she might
weaponry.
It would
When
have.
are we going to get a Kraken anyway? Oh, I wanna know.
Yeah.
In the books. In the next book.
Like, honestly, I'd be so happy to have a Kraken, just I'm sick of dragons. I'm so sick of dragons.
Well, I mean, we still could theoretically, if we go with the Forsaken chapter, if Yara takes that place, maybe we'll get Kraken from that.
Yes, I'm down. I want it.
Just grabs one of the dragons, pulls it under.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be sweet.
That would
Oh
be
my
so-
god, like Jurassic World with the Meteorosaur, like just going for that great white. That would
Or if
The
one
only good
pulled
part
the
of that
silence
film.
down.
Yes, just anything. That would be amazing.
Or an undead Kraken that the White Walkers wield.
Oh, no.
I want to
Please
be able to
don't.
sleep this century, please.
Ah,
Right?
like, if that happens, I'm never going in the ocean ever again.
Right.
I'm done. Never. If it's a
I-
cold day, I'm like a K away. Never.
Dangerous enough as it is around Australia, isn't it?
I might close out the episode. That concludes KrakenCast for this week. If you'd like to join us for an episode, we're probably going to be recording Tuesdays or Wednesdays. We'll see how we go. So check out the forum thread to see what we decide on. You can also catch the American episode reviews with the DragonCast and the European episode reviews with the Wolfcast. So thank you for joining me, Dana, Sarah, Bing, David, and Jed. And thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.